Hello and welcome to another episode of the ID Talk podcast. My name is Tony Bitsionis, and I'm here as always with my good friend and colleague, Mr. Alex Prala. Alex?
Hello. Hi, Tony. How are
Hey.
you?
I'm okay. Looks like I caught you off guard there for a second.
Yeah, I was nodding off for a sec.
Oh, hang in there, man. Um, we have a pretty interesting show today. We're going to be talking about a theme or a topic that comes up every single week, and for good reason, deepfakes and deepfake attacks. And there have been a lot of really interesting news items over the past little while that we've covered, and we'd love to talk more about it. So, Alex, do you want to get us started?
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason this is so apropos is that we had this big feature that we published that my name is on the byline, but really you did a lot of the legwork for that, talking to knowledgeable people in the industry about the deepfake threat.
I sure did.
But there's also a really exciting new thing that we have coming up, which is a live ID talk episode that will be happening at the very end of the month, the 31st, 11 a.m. And you can go to findbiometrics.com and you'll find a form you can fill out there to make sure that you're on the guest list, so to speak. But we're really going to be following up on a trip I'm going to take to the ID R&D headquarters. I'm going to go down and talk to those folks in New York, and they're going to talk to me about their deepfake detection technology, and it should be really interesting. So I'm going to report back, and we're going to talk about it in a live event, July 31st, ID Talk Live. And yeah, I'm really excited about it.
Yeah.
But but yeah, beyond that, there is certainly is a lot to talk about. And before we get to the big deepfake feature that we published, there's some smaller but kind of interesting news items that have come out recently. And I suppose, you know what, on the topic of ID R&D, we should mention that they recently had some news of a patent they got for detecting voice deepfakes.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's just I mean, they have a pretty robust IP portfolio, so it's, just another one that helps to build it further. But it is notable that it's focused specifically on voice deepfakes. I mean, their team looks at multiple modalities, but I feel like voice is sort of an underappreciated avenue for deepfake attacks. Uh,
Mhm.
like, I don't know, do you remember earlier this year there were robocalls that were posing as Joe Biden? I
Yep.
mean, it just kind of underscores how serious the problem can be.
Yeah, no, voice biometrics and voice-based deepfake attacks are super relevant right now. And I mean, there was a story that we published earlier this week about a partnership between 11 Labs and Reality Defender that was super interesting because 11 Labs um, kind of rose to prominence last year, or were at least like um, in the spotlight last year. They were featured in a Vice article where the journalist for Vice used their tech to create like a synthetic sound alike of his voice, and they used that to fool the voice biometric system for his bank,
Mhm.
and it worked. Um, so that's interesting because they've now partnered with Reality Defender, who some of their clients are government agencies and international corporations, and the sort of stated mission or intent of this partnership is to um, guard against deepfake driven disinformation.
Mhm.
So you've got the people with the tools to, fool a bank using those tools to fight disinformation, which I think is refreshing to hear.
Yeah, it's like 11 Labs, they put on the white hat. Like,
Mm-hmm.
not to say they had the black hat before. I mean, they weren't doing anything, that we know of that was like malevolent or anything. But like you said, they make the tools that people can use
Mhm.
to deep fake. So this group, Reality Defender, their whole mandate, their purpose is to fight disinformation, as you were just saying. So who better to team up with than like the weapons maker who knows how the
Right.
weapon works.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that struck me as well. And I also, while we're on the topic, I remember um, earlier this year, it was in one of our AI updates that we do weekly, when OpenAI announced that they were making a kind of voice cloning tool.
Right.
And they, I mean, just as soon as they announced it, they were like, we're not going to launch it.
Yeah.
And for that exact reason, they were like this poses an immediate danger. And they themselves called out banks and said, if you're using voice authentication, maybe now's the time to start thinking about another approach to security.
I think we even talked about that on the show because I remember we were like had just been talking about I think it was the Bank of Ireland or someone who had just
Oh
invested
yeah.
a ton of money on a new voice authentication system and we were like, oh, I don't know about the timing on this,
Yeah.
but I mean, there's nowhere to hide, right? Like their voice biometrics are gonna be a focus for deepfake attacks, just like every other form of authentication. So it's good to see companies partnering who can actually defend and protect against that sort of thing.
Yeah. And 11 Labs, to their credit, are obviously aware that their tools can
Mhm.
be used in this way. Whereas you look at another news item that we were covering recently, this startup called Acool. I have to assume it's pronounced Acool and not
It was a
Acool.
great name.
Yeah, based in Silicon Valley, and they announced this. They called it an inelegant name, web-based real-time face swap, but it's what it sounds
Great
like.
name.
Yeah, you in real time, you as a user can swap your face onto another body. And like it's just obviously it could be used as a kind of deep fake tool if someone wanted to. I'm sure
Is
it's
that the
against.
TikTok thing? That's a
Yeah, I mean, well, that's how they marketed it. They said
yeah,
this is for entertainment purposes,
right.
and they were saying like, yeah, I'm looking at the article now. They said, quote, so you can use it to quote, create engaging and viral content for platforms like Instagram and TikTok.
Right.
And I'm sure you can. Like, that's
Oh
not wrong.
yeah.
Um,
No, I mean technically, yeah.
but they never seem to like acknowledge in their announcement that this could be used in kind of bad ways.
Yeah.
Um,
So it's a good contrast to what we were just talking about with 11 Labs, right?
yeah, 11 Labs are like, yeah, we get it. We're
Yeah.
teaming with a Reality Defender, and then these guys are like, hey, we'd love to raise more capital for this entertainment product that we're working on. So
I'm sure they will.
yeah, they probably will.
Yeah.
To be fair, I haven't used it, so I don't know. Maybe they have robust security features in there that just were not made clear in their announcement, but I
Mm,
kind of doubt it.
possible. I'll take this time to confess that it's been a while since I've looked at any of your TikToks, so I apologize for that.
Well, I've really improved my shuffle dancing, so you're missing out.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah, just a clarification for listeners, I don't have a TikTok. So
We
if
don't know.
if,
With these face swaps, maybe you do.
if whatever you see out there on TikTok, that's a deep fake. I actually do not. I really
How
don't.
con how
Um,
convenient.
how convenient. Okay, so this is actually a good segue to the feature that we mentioned at the top of the show.
Yeah.
So that because one of the experts you talked to was friend of the pod, Danielle Van Zant from
Mhm.
Frost and Sullivan, and she flagged this exact issue, which is that there's these tools that are just widely available. It's just becoming easier and easier for someone to get access to this really rather sophisticated technology if they want. They can do whatever they want with it. And
Mm.
here's a case in point. And again,
Yeah, exactly.
I want to be absolutely clear. Acool, they're they're not doing anything illegal. We're not saying they're doing anything wrong. We are simply saying that they're making a tool that could be used in a malicious way.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the state of the industry right now, right? Like you said, and Danielle even mentioned it, I think, when she was on a few weeks ago on the show, that the tools are becoming more readily available, and you can be, before you would have to go on like the dark web to gain access to some of this stuff, and now it's just readily available, and more and more so going forward, they're just going to be everywhere. It's going to be whether you use it for your TikToks like you do, or if you're a gamer or whatever. The tools are all over the place, and the feature that you talked about that we wrote a couple of weeks ago now, I think it talks about, we talk about how much money deepfakes are costing the financial services industry, and that's some numbers from Deloitte that in 2023, so last year, deepfake based fraud cost $12.3 billion in losses for the financial industry, and that's projected to rise to 40 billion by 2027. It's 2.5 years away at this point, right? Like, it's not, we're not talking about way into the future. And
That's financial services alone, like you just
yeah,
said.
that's just
To
financial
underscore the
services,
point, that's just one sector, a big sector, but you know,
right?
this
But I mean,
everywhere.
yeah, exactly. um and so the biometrics industry has been kind of preparing for this. Biometrics, more secure than passwords, but still vulnerable in certain places. And so, how do we guard against these deepfake attacks? And I liked, in the article, we spoke to Campbell Cowie from iProve, and I liked something that he pointed out, which is, um, these tools, you can use them for a face swap, or to um, deepfake an individual, but you can also use them to create what he referred to as a silent synthetic identity, which is essentially creating a synthetic face, synthetic media, and then attaching that to PII, personally identifiable information that was stolen from a hack somewhere. And then
Mhm.
you create a synthetic identity. And, we also spoke to Jay Meyer from FaceTech, who is also another friend of the show. And he pointed out that uh, you can use synthetic identities can be used for injection attacks. So you can use the synthetic identity during the enrollment process, and that just means that it becomes legitimate in the eyes of the system, and it
Mhm.
gains access to the system, and it's approved within that network every single time.
Mhm.
And we all know what happens when somebody with malicious intents gains access to a network. They have any number of things that they can do to, you know, disrupt and cost billions and billions of dollars in losses and damage and stolen data and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's like uh, I love the movie The Departed,
Oh
and
yeah,
it's like DiCaprio's character goes to prison, like, but it's like a ruse at the start of
yeah,
the movie just to kind of prove that he's a hardened criminal and not a
yeah,
cop. It's
yeah.
like that. It's like it's such a stupid analogy, but I love the
No,
movie and mention it. And but it's getting at the root. It's like, look, I proved it here.
mhm,
For sure. Like I enrolled, this is
yeah,
who I am. Once you're set up at the root, you get free reign, like
yeah.
within an identity system.
And this is rewinding a little bit. But another a thing that really stood out to me from that feature article is just a really crazy example of a deepfake attack. And that was, I forget which company it was, but it was a company in Hong Kong where an employee was on a call, like a conference call with a number of senior directors, and he was advised to authorize something that ended up being a malicious attack and
It was wire transfers. It was
wire
like
transfers.
$25 million in wire transfers.
and And this poor employee, it turns out, was the only real person on that call. That I don't know how many um, synthetic identities or how many deepfakes there were, but they were on a call, like a Zoom call or a conference call with a number of people, and they were all faked.
Yeah.
And so, just how do you protect against this is basically the question right now, right? And we spoke to Jay, and 3D based liveness detection is a big part of it, and it's not just Jay and FaceTech that are touting that. It's the industry itself is kind of coming to that realization more and more, it seems.
Yeah, that's a really important point. But I also just want to highlight one other thing that struck me in this feature. You mentioned Campbell Cowie already from iProve, and also Miguel Santos Luparelli Matthew from FaceFee. And both of them basically were like, there needs to be a multi-layered approach to security, which I mean, like, what does that mean in practice? I guess it could mean a few things, but the interesting point is that it can't just be one thing. There have to be layers to your approach to security. You can't rely on a single mechanism for authentication, which I think is an important point, and
Yeah,
probably some some companies are going to learn the hard way that that's
yeah,
true, I'm guessing.
yeah. I like something else that Jay said, that a lot of this is designed to remove the human mistake engine.
Mhm. I mean, you know the joke I want to make.
I know I was going to see who was going to make it first, so we'll leave that up to the imagination of the listener.
Yeah. But yeah, Jay is right. And I feel like he talked about that when we had him on the show,
Mm-hmm.
that it was basically like, humans humans are always going to be involved in these identity platforms at some points. And that is not, we like to talk about, having a human review that can be an added security layer, but it can also be, um, I mean, like humans are imperfect, just like AI systems are imperfect. And I think the point he was making in the episode we had with him was that, again, once you've DiCaprio'd the system at the enrollment process, like it doesn't matter if it's a human or a machine reviewing your identity. It's
Yeah,
like
you've done your time.
you've done your time.
You've earned your stripes,
Yeah.
your prison stripes.
So I'd commend listeners to go and check out that feature just to get a few different perspectives from industry experts on this deepfake threat that we're all talking about all the time. And we're going to be talking about it more because the threat isn't going away. There's
Mm-hmm.
also a big industry event coming up in November that our friend Maxine Most from Acuity Market Intelligence is organizing, the Deepfake Summit in November.
Yep.
So I'm sure a lot of listeners are probably making plans to attend or get involved with that. And again, I just want to remind everyone that we have our own deepfake focused ID Talk live event, our first live event coming up at the end of the month. I'll be reporting back from my visit to ID R&D HQ, and
Oh,
I'm sure they'll have shown me some really interesting and terrifying examples of deepfake. So yeah, I'm sure we'll have a really good conversation about that, Tony.
yeah. I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be a lot of fun, and we'll include all the necessary links in the description for this episode, so everyone can check out the form for the ID Talk Live and the Deepfake Summit in our feature article, where we spoke to all these very, very knowledgeable and um, generous with their time industry experts.
You're here.
You're here.
All right, Tony. Well, I guess that wraps it up for today, but we'll
Yeah.
talk again soon.
Or will we?
Or will it be deepfakes?
Yep. I guess we'll never know.
We'll have to ask each other to dance to find out.
Can't wait.
We can't end on that.
No, we can. Oh.